Ooh, I'm excited for this one. This one's gonna be fun. Hi, it's Kendall here. If you're new around here, welcome. If you're not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? And happy Saturday. If you don't know what Saturday is when I do a little something on my channel called Bad Movies and a Beat. The series on my channel where I talk about bad movies while putting my makeup on. And this week is super exciting because everybody wanted me to talk about this movie and I have opinions. Very strong ones. But before we do that, it's time to pay some bills. Shout out to today's sponsor. Take it away, Admiral Kenny. This video is sponsored by NordVPN, the virtual private network that I personally subscribe to keep my internet browsing safe and secure. It allows you to surf the web, have secure downloading, and gives you the freedom to not worry about your internet provider tracking what websites you go to. And after last week's video, where I ended up on a lot of disgusting parts of the internet, my internet provider don't need to know me like that, because I'll just tell you on a public platform. NordVPN can be downloaded for any of your devices, including your phone and tablet, as well as computer, and allows you to also hook up to servers in over 59 countries. So if you want to wake up one day and be in like Amsterdam mentally, then you can be there. It's incredibly fast and easy to use, so you can see entertainment from all around the world and make sure that all of your browsing is, again, safe and secure. Go to nordvpn.com/Kenny and use code Kenny to get a 2-year plan at a huge discount plus 4 free additional months. It's risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. Big thanks again to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. Side note, I usually try to get my mic out of frame, but I do kind of feel like it makes it look like I have opinions because it's like you're speaking to the masses. Let me know. Do you guys prefer to not see it at all? Is it more distracting than everything else that happens in these videos? Actually, no, I kind of like it. I kind of like it without it in there. Last week's video, it was a lot. Last week, I actually didn't do bad movies per se. I did controversial movies because I ended up watching 3 controversial movies of their time, and they're all controversial for different reasons, and it was a whole lot of fun, but deeply disgusting. If you do have a morbid curiosity and you want to see that video, feel free to check it out up above, or you can check it out in the Bad Movies and a Beat playlist, because I know that video definitely got suppressed. I figured, I'm surprised it didn't get demonetized. So this week, however, there's been so much garbage coming out recently that it's really hard to keep up. Let me be quite frank with you. This is a little later than I would have preferred because I saw this movie not quite a while ago. It hasn't been out that long, but I saw it several weeks ago. Today, we are looking at Camp Foolishness, as you know, my favorite. People have been begging me to look at the 2021 horror supernatural thriller called Malignant, directed by James Wan, who made, I believe, the Saw series and the Conjuring series and Insidious. I think he did that too. All very, very famous series, all that I never cared to actually watch for no reason other than they looked pretty conventional. Generally speaking, as much as I love the horror genre, I do find that a lot of mainstream horror movies are quite predictable. But yeah, I just never really found myself interested in those movies, but I know that James Wan is incredibly famous because of them, so. But this most recent film, according to him, is his chance to experiment with film, get a little crazy, get a little wild. He is quite a well-known and decorated, cemented director. So, hey, why not go wild? So let's rewind to a month or so ago when I went to go see Shyamalan's Old in theaters twice. I paid money twice to see that movie. Love that movie. It is so bad. And while I was watching that movie in theaters, there was an advertisement for Malignant. And I remember thinking, that looks like a movie that won't be very good. So I didn't really think much of it outside of that. I thought the branding was really cool. Like the cover of this movie, impeccable. Like it's so iconic. But other than that, it seemed like a relatively conventional horror film. But then it comes out, and this was one of those ones that people were like, Kendall, please, I must know your opinion on Malignant. What are your thoughts? A lot of people saying like, oh, I just need Kendall to watch this so she can feel the pain that I feel, commiserate with me. Well, sorry to break it to you people, but I love this movie. Like dead ass. And not in a like, it's so bad it's good type of way. I like genuinely love this movie. Not even in the same way that I loved Old, because Old gave me a very like, so bad it's good type thing. This is just like a director went in and said, I've always wanted to make a bat movie and I'm finally famous enough to do it. I'm gonna make the movie I always wanted. And I love that. All the rules of film, of physics, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm gonna make it so that walking forward is a social construct. So sorry to disappoint you. For those of you that wanted me to hate it, definitely I think it's worth checking out. And not only worth checking out, but worth checking out more than once. Because in preparation for these videos, I try to avoid hearing other people's opinions, but it's kind of hard not to because a lot of people had opinions about this movie. And some of the concerns and critiques I heard, inconsistent tone, inconsistent storytelling. It was kind of all over the place. The acting was quote unquote bad. And if it's not bad acting, it didn't really fully commit to like the campiness. Very confusing and hard to follow. And all of these critiques, I feel like are somewhat valid, except for the one about keeping tone. I never quite understood that one because when I watched it several times, I was like, oh, the tone was always here. We just didn't know what we were supposed to be looking for. Weirdly enough, this movie becomes so much funnier in hindsight. Like after you've already seen the movie and you know what's coming, certain lines pop out and they end up being this like weird retrospective joke that is so funny to me. Unidentified alien type creature, just like I knew I was in for something out there. Spoilers ahead, I will be talking about the story pretty in depth. Again, it's streaming on HBO, so if you want to see it. So let's go down the rabbit hole that is Malignant 2021. So the movie begins with a doctor giving a test log of a subject that they've been monitoring named Gabriel. And the video is from 1993. The doctor is explaining that whatever the test subject is, it is getting stronger day by day, and they're losing the ability to really control it. And then soon after that, all hell breaks loose. Like this is the pocket. This is around the pocket. This movie is like way to fuck over there. This unseen test entity, Gabriel, in a rage, killed a bunch of nurses. Apparently has the ability to kind of latch on to electromagnetic currents and allows it to speak through radios, telephones, and basically anything that has an electro current. So in a frenzy, the doctors announce that it is time.
We cut out the cancer.
And there was something about this opening scene and also like the title credits that let me know I am walking into something very retro. There's something that feels very nostalgic about this movie, something like early 2000s, 90s crime show, X-Files adjacent. There's this like really dramatic, action-y rock music. And it's very like ostentatious. And there was something about this that allowed me to know that no matter how serious the movie may get circumstantially, there is something very like just left of serious about this movie in general. And then you're kind of going along kind of suspicious of that throughout the movie. And then towards the end, when it loses all hope of trying to stay together and be anyway like a straight serious movie, that's when you're kind of let in on, yeah, this movie is bat. If you watch it a second time, you realize it's technically been bat the entire time. So our main character is Maddie. She is married to an abusive dick. She's currently pregnant. What we kind of learn is that she has suffered from several miscarriages. She is currently struggling from the pain of her current pregnancy. So we find out about her miscarriages again through her abusive dick husband, who says something along the lines of, you need to chill getting pregnant because your miscarriages really hurt me. Wow. But one night they get in a fight that results in him pushing her and making her crack her skull against a wall, which causes it to bleed. So I know what you're thinking. Domestic abuse, not usually what we use for camp. Where's the fun in this? And I guess this is where I see how some people could feel like it goes in and out of this kind of fabulosity. I personally kind of like that they set up this incredibly absurd story around something very realistic like domestic abuse. It feels kind of like camp comes in to save the day. Am I reaching? Probably. That night, she sleeps in the bed with the husband outside of the bedroom, and he sleeps on the couch. And he is awoken by a sound in the kitchen. Again, this is a horror movie, so of course he's going to go to investigate. And whatever seems to be making these sounds keeps mysteriously disappearing. But before he can go back to bed, the dark, ominous figure pops his head off like a Mexican Coke. Maddie is awakened by this in her dream. And once awake, she realizes that her head is actually still bleeding. And then upon going to investigate, she discovers that her husband's head is indeed flipped back like a Pez dispenser.
Oh no. How do you run away when you're pregnant? It's like a f***ed up version of CrossFit. It's like a 25-pound weight on the front of you.
This is where we meet detectives who I'm pretty sure they gave a name, but I didn't take note of it. I just call them Wanda Sykes and young Keanu Reeves. Maddie is sent to the hospital where her sister Sydney comes to visit her. Apparently, Sydney and her have not had a lot of conversations because her abusive husband had isolated her from her family. So this is their chance to make up and become closer again. Maddie awakens frightened for her baby, and come to find out, in the stress of the event, she had ended up losing her child. The next morning, Keanu comes into the hospital room to get some information about the events of the day prior and about the murder. Maddie's not really able to speak. She's kind of catatonic because of all of the stress that has been happening. So instead, he talks to Sydney, the sister.
The doctor said your sister had 3 miscarriages in the last 2 years.
That's a HIPAA violation, no? Can detectives just go in and say, I want her health information? Can you do that? But because of the abuse that Maddie has suffered at the hands of her husband, the detectives start to think that there's motive for her to kill him. Meanwhile, Maddie is having trouble staying in the house. She feels a sort of dark, ominous aura following her. There's this really amazing shot of her just like kind of running from nothing. Spider on the ceiling shot that I love. It has this odd sensation of us like floating above her, watching her run. To me, it kind of felt like we are her depersonalized mind. Like we are her floating above her, if that makes sense. Her sister comes to check on her the next day, and she kind of talks about how hard it is that she keeps having so many miscarriages because she wanted to have a blood relation to somebody. That's when she tells her sister that she's actually adopted, that they adopted her when she was 8. She doesn't remember anything before the age of 8. And then there is again this oddly nostalgic sounding action music and pan into the sister's face. And then this shot of the city. It feels like an early 2000s crime show, and I'm all over it. We then meet this random woman who is working at a museum that is underground. We don't know who this woman is, but apparently she is the next target of our dark, shadowy, ominous figure. It captures her and tapes her to an attic ceiling. For some reason, it is deciding to wait to finish her off. The shadowy figure uses the radio to explain that they are now going to go after Dr. Weaver, who is the doctor that was in the first video log in the beginning of the movie. It calls Dr. Weaver and lets her know that it is, quote, time to cut out the cancer. Call back to the beginning of the movie. You got me following. Now things start to get a little bit strange because one day while Maddie's doing her laundry in her own home, she is suddenly able to see inside Dr. Weaver's house. And a matter of fact, she's able to see her get murdered. And after having this vision, Maddie wakes up screaming. She tells her sister, hey, I think I'm able to see murders happen before they happen. I don't know what's happening, but I saw her get murdered. I was there. I saw it, but I wasn't there. I was here. I don't know what's going on. It's very spooky ooky. Her sister believes her immediately, which is good for her because I'd be like, hun. Another doctor from the beginning of the movie, the one that was letting Dr. Weaver know that things are going haywire with Gabriel, he finds out about her death, and apparently he's next on the list. All of which, of course, Maddie sees from the comfort, quote unquote, of her own home. Can I just say, by the way, at this point, we've now seen 3 people die on camera. The murder scenes themselves are so that you can't help but kind of laugh whenever you see them. And then you feel bad and you're like, damn, what does that say about me? Maddie, of course, sees this murder again in real time, and she awakes with a scream that her sister comes running to. She goes to the police for some reason, this was stupid, to tell them that she sees murders before they happen, and she's somehow connected to the murderer, and she doesn't know how, but she's getting these visions. And she's like, go to so-and-so's apartment, the last guy that just died, and you will see that he is dead. If you don't believe me, you can have me committed or whatever. What do? They go to where she said to go, and lo and behold, he is also dead. And then Maddie gets a call from none other than Gabriel. He calls her Emily, and she's like, I don't know who that is, but apparently her name was originally Emily before she got adopted.
You know who I am, even if they say I'm only in your head.
Again, that's funnier on the second watch. But she starts to understand him as someone from her past, from before she can remember. They go to her adopted mother's house and they ask her, do you recall anyone named Gabriel? They do the dramatic zoom in, you know. Apparently, Gabriel was her imaginary friend as a child. She used to talk to it and it would tell her to do bad things, apparently. The doctors thought of it as like some form of psychosis. You know, she had a very stressful upbringing, apparently. And the detectives start to realize and put together that Maddie is apparently this Emily girl who all these dead doctors have worked on. And there's apparently one doctor left that has not been killed. So the detective, Keanu, goes to stop the murder before it's happening. And again, of course, Maddie is also real time getting the vision of the murder. Then commences one of the most out-of-pocket chase scenes I've seen in a very, very long time. This is the scene that really cemented for me the viewing experience I was having, because there is no way that I'm supposed to see this thing crab walk and still take this movie completely seriously. There is something other happening here, and I'm just along for the ride, and I'm okay with that. Like, do you know how out of your mind you have to be to say, you know what, one thing I would love in my movie is for them to parkour backwards and crab walk out of a chase scene. But Gabriel gets away and the detective is able to make it out alive, which I'm glad about, because he fine. Like, he was your main reason I was still watching the movie, to be honest with you. The detectives go to kind of interrogate Maddie. They're like, hey, all of the doctors that are winding up dead in some way had to do with you when you were a kid, so. And we're gonna trust when you say that you don't remember anything prior to your adoption. So we're gonna bring in a hypnotherapist to help you recover your memories. There's just so much blue liquid in my mouth. Through this series of events, she remembers moments of her childhood in which an unseen entity inspired her to do bad things. All of which, of course, she would get blamed for, because who else would have done it? One night, her imaginary friend, Gabriel, makes her think that she's going to slice a piece of cake. But in actuality, she was about to slice open her adopted mom's pregnant belly. Luckily, she wakes up before it happens. But before they think too much about that, that woman that was kidnapped, she falls through their ceiling. So that whole, yeah, I had nothing to do with people dying and getting kidnapped. And as you can imagine, Maddie just seems too conveniently aware of a lot of things happening with these murders and these kidnappings. So they finally arrest her now. They go into the ceiling. They find all of these things that are supposed to align with the murderer. They find the black raincoat. They find the weapon that was used to kill Dr. Weaver. And then back at the station, they begin to interrogate Maddie. She continues to say that it wasn't her. She didn't do it. She didn't murder anybody. She didn't kidnap anybody. And then her anger blows out all the lights. And soon, Gabriel calls on the phone. Ring ding ding, calls detectives. And he says some ominous shit like, I'm out here. Maddie didn't even want to claim me.
I thought she'd already told you I'm a figment of her imagination.
Ooh, that's a good laugh.
Now, Sydney, the sister, realizes that she would get some information if she goes to the old hospital where Maddie was adopted from. It's this giant gothic ass building on a hill, you know, definitely giving like human rights violations. She finds a bunch of tapes. Apparently, her mother was sexually assaulted and was impregnated at 15. and was trying to give the baby up for adoption. And then she gave the baby over to the research hospital. And apparently, dun dun dun, the mother, the birth mother, was the woman that was kidnapped and kept in the attic. She talks about the baby by two names for some reason, Gabriel and Emily. And she's like, Gabriel is an abomination. Save Emily. So this is where we realize that Gabriel is indeed not an imaginary friend, but instead a parasitic twin that exists on the back of Maddie's head and feeds off of her. And apparently, when her abusive husband shoved her head against the wall, that awakened Gabriel up. Because what they had done before at the hospital is chop off parts of him, push the rest inside of her skull. So, remember when I said that some parts of this movie are funnier when you watch it again? Throughout the movie, they've been saying stuff like, they said I'm just in your head. They say it's all in your head. They didn't think, like, literally, so funny when I watched it again. And you know, when we got to this big reveal, I gotta say, I was kind of kicking myself that I didn't notice there's so many hints along the way that that's what this is. I was like, oh, I should have caught that. I would have usually caught that. I guess I just wasn't mentally prepared. I didn't know what I was going into. So apparently, Gabriel has the ability to hijack Maddie/Emily's body and make her see things, do things as he has control over her body. When Gabriel hijacks her body, she still believes she is wherever she was before. She still thinks she's at home. She still thinks she's doing laundry. She still thinks she's in a jail cell. But instead, he has hijacked her body and taken it to just it up. Again, Maddie has been arrested for murder and kidnapping of her birth mother. And she's like, it's not me, it was Gabriel, it's always Gabriel. She ends up getting like grimmed down by a bunch of other inmates or people in holding at the jail cell, and it was so weird. One calls her Pollyanna, and I couldn't help but wonder, is this a reference to Showgirls? I feel like it's always not that far away.
Hey, Pollyanna.
What did you call me?
I said you look like Pollyanna.
If it is, I am with you, James. We are here. I did also read on Twitter where someone said that Malignant is like 2021 Showgirls. It's like there was all this hope for it because the director is so well known. Everyone was like, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And then a lot of people don't like this movie. But if you recall, Showgirls is one of my favorite movies. So maybe that explains a lot. There's a fight scene, and guess who's always ready to throw hands? Gabriel. And there's a scene where Gabriel is like coming out of her skull. Drugs. It feels like I'm on drugs. He like cracks her bones so that they're set backwards. And I'm sure most of this scene I won't be able to show without again getting demonetized, so just get used to seeing my face, but just trust, it's an experience. It's worth seeing. Gabriel's able to escape by killing a guard that came to check on all the ruckus and stealing the keys. And this is where Gabriel goes into another fight scene, this time with a bunch of police officers, and there's something so coconuts unnecessarily epic, and I just love it. This weirdly like slick camera mechanics. I don't know, I love it. How high do you have to be? I want to have a backwards fight scene. I just don't believe any sober person came up with this idea. The detectives come to fight. They scream at Maddie to try to get her to wake up because in her mind, she's still in the holding cell. They all suspect that now that everyone else is out of the way, that Gabriel is now going to kill the birth mother and the sister. There's a few more off the wall bonker ass scenes. Gabriel explodes a dude's pacemaker and Gabriel goes to kill the mom because she referred to him as an abomination and wanted him to die. But the mom wakes up and is like, I should have never tried to give you away. You were my child. There ends up being like a fight scene with the sister and sexy Keanu, but both of them end up getting knocked down. And Gabriel is about to kill the sister, but she's like, Maddie, listen, the reason why you couldn't have any babies is because he was feeding off of your fetuses inside of your body. But Gabriel shoots the sister and suffocates the birth mother. Or does he? No, he doesn't. Because now Maddie has the power to control Gabriel's reality. And she says that she's taking everything back that he's stolen, and he can only exist in the reality that she creates. Go ahead. Take back your reality, queen. She then locks him away in the cage of her mind. Gabriel recedes back into her skull. That was gross. She's able to lift the hospital bed off of her sister because she realizes that whatever strength Gabriel used was still through her body, and she's able to do it. And in a touching family moment, they hug, and she says that she will always be her sister. And that's the end. We don't figure out if Keanu made it or not. I hope so. So, what are my thoughts on this movie? It's batshit. And I loved every moment of it. If I wanted to be all art people-y, I could think of Gabriel being all of our inner demons. But instead of like a murderous parasitic twin, it's like, I don't know, depression. Or anything else that makes us feel like we're not completely present in our own bodies. It's deep! But on a more like superficial sense, I just love this movie because it's just such organized chaos. Weirdly nostalgic and soap opera-y, and again, pocket out of. I feel like there is a distinctly different viewing experience the first time you see it versus any subsequent time after that. And that's kind of cool. Not a whole lot of movies do that. Recently, at least. There's not a whole lot of movies that kind of just take you to nowhere land and say, figure it out, bitch. Going on my list of the best bad movies of this year. I don't even know if Malignant is considered bad. I think to some degree I understand why someone would think it's bad. The acting is bizarre. The camera work is bizarre. The storyline is bizarre. It's all bizarre. So I guess to some degree we could call it bad. But bad has so many relative meanings. But to me, calling it bad or good is almost inconsequential to the viewing experience. It's fantastical. It is something otherworldly. That is all for today, folks. If you like today's video, feel free to like today's video. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram, Twitter, both of which are KennyJD. If you have more suggestions for bad movies that I should check out, feel free to put those down in the comment section. And I will see you guys next time.